So moving forward to our third speaker, we are again fortunate to have with us RI staff assigned to the Philippines. She reports to RISPO Australia as a philanthropy officer of the Rotary Foundation. And she is with us to discuss about the four-step process on raising funds for the foundation. So friends, please welcome our fund development specialist, Ms. Gretchen Laurel.
Hi everyone, good morning.
Morning.
Good
Thank you
morning.
so much for spending your morning with us. It's always, it's always a pleasure and it's always a privilege for me to speak to all of you. As you know, I am from the Rotary International South Pacific and Philippines office. I am assisting and helping all 10 districts of the Philippines. Ang daming numbers that was mentioned earlier. We have a lot of data, a lot of fundraising figures, and if there is one word that has been repeated again and again, it's record-breaking. Nape-pressure na ba kayo? I know. That's always what happens when we are on the tails of a record-breaking year. There is always a lot of thankfulness, of course. There's always a lot of happiness that we reach such great heights. But as we reconvene, we always ask ourselves, where do we go from here? And it's either we go up or we go down, or we continue the path that we tread on. And whenever I feel overwhelmed, I always like to start from the very beginning. And I hope this video can also tell you why all of us are here.
I'm here today to talk about fundraising, or as you probably think of it, the other F word. Because if you want to change the world, you have to know how to pay for it. I'm not talking about being a good person. You can do that for free. I'm talking about if you want to create something, start something, galvanize a community, improve the lives of others, run for office. Every day, great ideas die on the vine because they don't have capital to get off the ground. And all of the work, the thought, the vision that goes into the idea isn't worth much if you can't pay your bills. And while most of the greatest social movements in history were powered purely by an idea and people's belief in that idea, real change and impact require resources. Real people do this work. They need real change, real impact, and resources to actually make it happen. The people that believe in this work have to have the support and the resources to do it. That's where I come in. I get essential resources into the hands of people.
I'd like to reiterate one of the lines from that video. Real change, real impact require real resources. And people have to have the support to do the work that matters. And that's why we're here. We are all, if there is one thing that we have in common in this room, it is that we are all fundraisers. There is nothing to be ashamed of in asking for money or in asking for support, because we are not asking for ourselves. All of you have either applied or have been a recipient of a global grant or a district grant. And you know very well that that is where the resources that we ask for are directed to. Everyone is confused about my role. What is a fund development specialist? What is a fundraiser? And I hope that you also have this context. We are in the business, we are in the art of funding dreams. And if we want to connect it to next year's theme, we are in the business of turning hope, that is our theme for next year, into reality. And if we want to change the world, like all of us do here, we have to have the funds to pay for that change that we want to happen. I'm very fortunate because I work with dreamers. I work with visionaries who have unboundless hope. And, that's seen in this room and in the numbers that we have accomplished. I would also like to, and with that said, I would like to take us through the basics of fundraising, which is the 4-step process. And then afterwards, we will be going through some real life examples of how the 4-step process can be implemented. What is the 4-step process? Apat. The first step is identification. Next step is cultivation, solicitation, and then stewardship. As we all know, major gifts, asking for a $10,000 gift is very different from asking for a $100 gift. My analogy is that it's always about a courtship. Sa mga lalaki dito, panliligaw. And if you are very lucky, with one ask, you can ask a girl on a date. Will you go out on a date with me? You will be very lucky if the girl immediately says yes. But I think from experience, all of us know that it's a process. A courtship is a process. A relationship is a process that takes work and homework. And that's essentially what the 4-step process is telling us. First step, identify your prospects. Kilalanin. How will we ask for the gift when we don't even know who to ask? Second step, ligawan. Inform, discover, nurture, and strengthen their Rotary interest. And inform them of the reasons and opportunities to make a gift. Third step, yayain. Tsaka mo palang yayayain. Pag nakilala mo na, pag niligawan mo na, tsaka mo palang yayayain. And this is the solicitation step. This is asking for the major gifts at the right time. And finally, tsaka mo palang pasasalamatan o tsaka mo palang pakakasalan. This is solicitation wherein we recognize donors who have made major gifts. And this involves continually thanking and recognizing them. I'll go through that in detail. First step, identification or kilalanin. There are two sides to this one. First, I'd like to talk about the quantitative. Quantitative meaning we have the numbers for this. We have our Rotary reports at our fingertips to help us. You have to know the giving capacity at the base level in your respective districts. Who are your top 20 givers historically? Who are your present AKSs and major donors? Or even on a club level, who are your top 5 givers? All of these can actually be seen in our Rotary reports. You can also, the beauty of the reports is that it has a pattern. For me personally, everyone who has given $5,000 and up for 3 consecutive years are on my radar. That's the list that I have. Preference, which you can also see in our Rotary reports. You can see in our donor history report, saan ba siya nagbibigay? Is he a continuous supporter of Polio Plus? Is he a strong supporter of annual fund share? Or for the past 3 years, has he shown a keen interest in WASH or BEL or the environment? That's for the individual donors. You can also see milestones on the club level. Is it the club's 50th anniversary? Is it the district's 10th year funding anniversary? Is there a 75th birthday coming up, a milestone birthday coming up? All of these quantitative data can be found in our Rotary report. On the other flip side of the coin is the qualitative part of identification. And this is where our relationships come in. Our Rotary in the Philippines is strengthened by our relationships. Actually, ito yung chismis, chismis grapevine. And this is actually the leads that our reports are not able to capture. The qualitative data, yan yung mga tumatawag sa akin, Gretchen, nanalo sa kaso, or he came across a big inheritance of $100,000, or he will be giving $200,000 if he wins elections. These are things that are not captured in our Rotary reports, but are also key in fundraising and in tapping potential gifts. And as our eyes and ears in the districts, please keep your eyes and ears open for these small leads that can possibly lead us to this. 2 tips. Get in touch with your district leaders because they are the ones who have the relationship and more or less secure the underground agreements. And everyone is familiar with that. The underground agreements meaning I will become AKS when DG and so reaches this year. Or hindi mo na ako magbibigay kasi hindi ko gusto yung governor this year. Such nuances. You can know that from your district leaders. Also, get in touch with your presidents. They are the ones who are, after all, the closest to your donors. So to recap, for the identification process, there's the quantitative side, which can be found through our Rotary reports, and the qualitative side, which is enriched with the relationship that we have with our donors. Next step, cultivation. Nandito na tayo sa nagliligawan. And this is for me, I found that this is the most exciting part because this is the process of building a relationship with our donors. Just to share, and Gov Jeff Nickdow knows about this. One of our AKS members in Cebu, I always remember this. He said, I used to be treated like a wallet. It's always there. And you know what that implies? It implies that people just reach out to him because he can give to the foundation and nothing else. They did not see him as a person with his own views or perspectives about the foundation. And we don't want that. That is not the type of relationship that we want to build. And the most important thing is to always see our donors as people. Find out his Rotary story. Bakit ba siya nagbibigay? Why does he give? Who brought them into the foundation? Is he a first-generation Rotarian? Is he a second-generation Rotarian? Is his best friend the one who introduced him to Rotary? Maybe it's his business partner. What is his relationship with his club? What are the projects that he is most passionate about? That same donor from 3860 is now an Arch Clump Society member. And I believe that that transition happened when our Jesnik Dao made a presentation in that club. Because Gov Jeff, who was our EMGA during that time, shared his own Rotary story. And after that, this donor came up to him and then he said, so that's why you give to Rotary. It's because of the projects. And that is always what we have to reach for or to work towards. It's to build that relationship, to build that trust, and to build that sense of commonality. And it's easy. We are both here. We are all here because we want to change the world and find out why your donors want to change the world and how they want to do it with Rotary. That's our baseline. Other parts of the cultivation process is again to have meaningful interactions, personal visits, calls. It would also be worthwhile to introduce them to other donors who share similar interests or have similar backgrounds. You can also invite them to Rotary events, such as we have our MGI advisors here. You can think of having a wash themed event or a maternal and child care themed event, and invite donors who have that same Rotary interest. And you can also introduce them to Rotary leaders. One of our most successful events for this Rotary year was when we brought in Trustee Chair Ian Risley for a simple luncheon, and that was hosted by our current EMGA, June Farcon. And that luncheon, it was very, very intimate. We were, I think, about 40 or 50 people. And it was a gathering of people who have given significantly to the foundation, one, but also people who just wanted to meet Ian Risley and understand his viewpoints as a trustee chair. That was very useful because that forged, again, going back to what we were saying, that forged a relationship between our donors and Ian Risley. That event, I think, led to 4 new AKS commitments and pledges. And again, going back, it always goes back to the relationships. It goes back to the Rotary experience that we give to our donors. Part of, and I would like to highlight this, part of the cultivation process is to achieve ability. We cannot technically achieve ability, but we can offer alternatives to an immediate outright gift. You may find donors who will tell you, I really want to become major donor level 1. I want to give a $10,000 gift, but I cannot do it in one time. And the foundation has options to increase the ability of the donor. We have the 3-year pledge for gifts of a minimum of $10,000. We extend the 3 years to 5 years for those who want to become part of the Arch Clung Society. So meron po tayong pledge forms, installment, kumbaga. In this pledge, we also have created the undesignated pledge. In, I think, 3 or 2 Rotary years back, when a donor signs a pledge form, he can only indicate one fund. Kung nag-sign siya, gusto ko, sa polio lang lahat yung pledge ko. But now we have come up with an undesignated portion where donors can indicate anything. So if in this Rotary year he wants to give to polio and to a directed gift, that's possible. If in the next year he wants to direct it to the annual fund, that's possible. And we have the undesignated pledge for that. We also have the named versus pooled endowed funds, which I will speak more about later. And we also have bequest, giving through bequests, which again, I will talk to about later. The third step after identification, cultivation, nandito na tayo sa solicitation. Nakilala mo na, ngayon, yayayain mo na. You will already ask him or her out on the date. And solicitation can be summed up in this sentence. It's the right person asking for the right amount at the right time for the right program. All of those things have to be in place. The right person doesn't always have to be me or our EMGA June. It doesn't always have to be you. How do you know who the right person is? You go back to your relationship. Who is the person who has the most influence over your donor? who is the right person or people who he will listen to. And again, you can only find that out when you have the relationship with the donor. Asking for the right amount. Asking for the right amount requires reviewing his records. Oh, he has already given $225,000. $25,000 na lang, AKS na siya. Again, it goes back to the other steps of the 4-step process. At the right time. When is the right time? It will always be the donor who will dictate that. You will have donors who want to become AKS or who want to become major donors when the district governor visits the club. You will have donors who want to give a significant gift during the convention or during district events or during big Rotary events. And the right timing, knowing the right timing, again, comes from having that relationship with your donor. That goes as well with the right program. Because in your relationship, in your encounter with your donor, you will know, gusto ko sa polio or gusto ko sa annual fund kasi yun talaga yung pinaniniwalaan ko. Or gusto ko sa annual fund share because the district governor nominee is my best friend. Again, the right person asking for the right amount at the right time for the right program. You will only know that when you have a relationship with the donors. Who can be the right person? Peer-to-peer, it can be from a district governor to another district governor. It can be with your staff. It can be with our EMGA. It can be with a senior leader or with anyone from the foundation that he or she respects. A solicitation, the ask can go something like this. Gov Jess or Gov June, based on our conversations, I know that you value the work of Rotary as much as I do. Is making a directed gift of $30,000 to support the WASH area of focus something you would consider? What are the elements there? There is a specific amount, $30,000. There is a specific program, WASH, and there is a platform of giving, directed gift. And always the magic phrase is, would you consider, or sa Tagalog, pwede ba? Why do I consider that as a magic phrase? Because you give your donor the opportunity to say no, na hindi mapapahiya. Because pwede naman, because you can always receive no for an answer. And no doesn't necessarily mean not anymore. That no can mean not yet or not at this time. And having that, leaving that okay lang ba or pwede ba or would you consider gives your donor that option. So again, the 4-step process, that's identification, cultivation, solicitation, and finally, we're all familiar with that recognition, which is the regalia, which is all of the district recognition events that we have. We will practice the 4-step process with, I like to call this a composite personality, a fake personality, kumbaga. This is, I'd like all of you to meet Virgilio Policarpio. Of course, Virgilio Policarpio is inspired by our current EMGA, June Farcon, and our current RFC, Penny Policarpio. Let's get to know Virgilio Policarpio, as was seen earlier in the 4-step process. Virgilio Policarpio is a Rotarian of 20 years. He is a past district governor of Rotary International District, 39,000. O diba? 39,000 na yung district. He is the past president of the Rotary Club of San Francisco del Marikina. He is a consistent donor and supporter of the Rotary Foundation. And the most exciting thing about him, he has come across an unexpected inheritance of $100,000. Laki, $100,000. Tumawag siya. I want to give $100,000 to the foundation. Can you give me options? Of, mahihindi ba? Of course, if anyone of us receives a call like that, of course, the immediate answer is a yes. And we will go through the options that we will give Virgilio Policarpio for an amount of $100,000. We met Virgilio as we get to know Virgilio Policarpio, we get to know more details about him. Further details. The cause close to my heart is education. He says that he's a scholar and that he considers education as the game changer that improved his life. So among of Rotary's 7 areas of focus, he is very passionate about basic education and literacy. His club, the Rotary Club of San Francisco del Marikina, also shares his passion. And we get to find out that they always apply for a global grant under basic education and literacy. Lumapit siya. Can I give to an area of focus? And the answer is yes, with something called directed gifts. What are directed gifts? Directed gifts are gifts of $30,000 and up. Malaking pera. But in exchange, the donor can choose an area of focus and can choose the implementing club or district of a global grant. In the case of our Virgilio Policarpio, we can do something like the Virgilio Policarpio Basic Education and Literacy Directed Gift implemented by the Rotary Club of San Francisco del Monte. What are the benefits of a directed gift? Again, there's that naming opportunity. A $30,000 gift, a full $30,000 gift, can fully fund a global grant without the need for an international funding partner. It just requires an international signatory. Of course, if it's for a bigger global grant, if it's for a 120,000 global grant, that directed gift can be supplemented by DDF, club, and other individual gifts. A directed gift is spent in increments of $15,000. Some guidelines, very important po, because we have encountered some issues about directed gifts. Some guidelines about the directed gift. We have actual paperwork that the donor needs to sign, and this is called the directed gift agreement. Upon signing and upon payment, there is a unique gift ID that's generated. For example, T2923 Bell. The donor has to take note of that. Why? The club then tags T2923 Bell in the Global Grant Applications Funding Plan. For all of us who have applied for a global grant, dun po sa funding plan, dun pa lang po, ini-indicate na natin yung directed gift. The directed gift is not applied after the grant has been approved. It is tagged during the application process. Please remember that. Kasi our grants team will not be able to consider applying a directed gift after the fact. Other notes, tagging a directed gift, kahit po gaano pa kalaki yan, does not guarantee the approval of the global grant. No. The global grant application is appraised and is applied according to the merits of the global grant itself. So even if you tag a very large directed gift of $200,000, if the global grant itself is not found, then it will not be approved. Another note, the donor cannot change the area of focus. Hindi sa akin pwedeng lumapit si Virgilio Policarpio para sabihin na instead of Bell, can I shift it to environment? No. It has to be Bell because that is what we signed in the directed gift agreement. This is a best practice example that I would like to highlight for directed gift. Our chair circle, current chair circle members, Hermie Esguerra and Joyce Ambre of District 3810. I see Gov Lisa is here, ang iyong governor at president. They actually set up 4 directed gifts with a total fund value of $155,000 under 4 areas of focus: DPP, WASH, maternal and child health, and Bell. And it's the first time that we have done something like this in the country. And those 4 directed gifts are the basis of what they call the Hermie and Joyce Global Grant Fund. So, I hope that this can also be replicated across other districts in the Philippines. Hermie and Joyce and those 4 directed gifts did not specify a club. Instead, they specified their home district 3810, meaning all of the clubs of 3810 can avail of their directed gift. So it's very generous again, and I hope that it's something that can be replicated. Balik tayo. Dun sa $100,000 inheritance, he spent $30,000 on a directed gift. So meron pa siyang $70,000. Lumapit ulit. Virgilio Policarpio once again called. He said, I already made a directed gift and that will fund the global grant next year. I'm happy to have helped immediately. But what about in the long term? He said that he wants to invest in Rotary and our district future. And as Karina was discussing earlier, the best vehicle for this is the endowment fund. What is a named endowment fund? A named endowment fund is a gift of $25,000 and up that is directed to the endowment. What are the benefits? Again, there is a naming opportunity. In this case, we have established the Virgilio Policarpio Endowment Fund. And a named endowment fund can be in 2 ways. One is endowment fund share, where 50% of the interest earnings goes to the district as DDF. I would like to highlight this. It goes back to the district as DDF and not as cash. I have had previous donors who were asking me, how do I get the interest earnings from my own endowment fund? This is my BPI account number. No, the interest earnings po goes back to your district as DDF and not as cash. And that is if it's endowment fund share. There is another type of endowment fund, which is endowment fund area of focus. For an endowment fund area of focus, let's say endowment fund / environment, 100% of the interest earnings funds global grants worldwide. Hindi po siya bumabalik sa district. I hope that's clear. Unlike endowment fund share, that the interest earnings goes 50% goes back to your district, an endowment fund area of focus, it goes back to fund projects all over the world, not only your district. Another type of endowment fund is a district or club endowment fund. In the case of, again, Virgilio Policarpio, he said that his other club members were so inspired by his own endowment fund. And they asked him, can we set up an endowment fund together with our other members? Timing is right because it is the 50th year founding anniversary of the Rotary Club of San Francisco del Mariquina. And this is possible. This is just a table to show the difference between a named endowment fund and a club or district endowment fund. Because nakita natin, dalawa siyang magkaiba. For a named EF, there is only one donor. For a club or district endowment fund, there are multiple donors, meaning 3 to 25. There is paperwork involved, so meron pong pipirmahan in both types of endowment fund. Installment is possible for a named endowment fund. However, it is not possible for a club or district endowed fund. The payment, as mentioned, is a minimum of $25,000. But for a club or district endowment fund, the pioneer donors, yung una pong mga donors, should give a minimum of $1,000 and up. Top up or additional is possible for both. The purpose for a named EF is to honor individuals or spouses. The purpose of our club or district endowment fund is to honor a club or district. All our named endowed funds are very special because they are given a unique gift ID. Think of it as you have your own special fund inside of the Rotary Foundation, and that's very, very valuable. So please take note of your gift ID. For example, in this case, it's E2543. And if you want, and if you are, you can use this to make a top-up gift every Rotary year. Again, back to Virgilio Policarpio, we saw that he already made a directed gift of $30,000. He made his own named endowment fund. He gave $10,000 to set up a club endowment fund. But of course, he also wants to support the current causes of Rotary, and he wants to help today. And so he also gave $10,000 to Polio Plus and another $25,000 to annual fund share. Nabuo na yung $100,000 ni Virgilio Policarpio. Of course, Virgilio Policarpio is a sample. But I hope what this illustrates is that a big gift, which we are all responsible for, has many, many, many options for our donors. And I hope that we can leverage on these many different options. It did not end there though. Hindi pa doon natatapos yung generosity ni Virgilio Policarpio. He said that, he called me again. He said, Rotary is very, very close to my heart. And when I pass away, I want to leave part of my estate to the foundation. And so he told me that he will be giving $50,000 for the Rotary Foundation when he passes away in his last will and testament. I told him, hindi ko po kailangan ng kopya ng last will and testament ninyo. But what I will need is a signed and duly fulfilled copy of this brochure. This was already mentioned earlier, but upon completion and upon signing for this one, our donors can be elevated to the Bequest Society for a commitment, minimum commitment of $10,000 and up. In closing, I would like to reiterate that there are many different ways to give to the Rotary Foundation. We touched on briefly about the concept of directed gifts, the endowment fund, named endowment fund versus club endowment fund, the Bequest Society. There are many ways to give to the Rotary Foundation. And the bigger the gift, the more options that we have. There are processes and guidelines for these gifts. Why? Hindi po dahil pinapahirapan namin kayo. But these processes, paperwork, and guidelines are there to protect the interest of our donors. And the interest of why he actually made that gift in the first place. Going back to our discussion earlier, we should learn how to build relationships with our donors. Please do not see your prospective donors as a wallet or as an ATM. Treat them as people. Treat them as really people who have their own say about who or how to give to the foundation. And lastly, going back to the video, we are here because we want to fund dreams. The money does not go to us. It is for the dreams that we have for our communities, the dreams that we have for our children. And it's the only way that we can create change. Thank you.
Thank you, FDS Gretchen, for that very excellent presentation on the 4-step process, not only on TRF giving, but also on dating, and a very detailed presentation on endowment fund and directed gifts.